Welcome everyone, this is Tactical Tzeetch here, and today we have another battle sent in by Logic playing against Every Chicken in a training session. Now, Logic is a great YouTube content creator with his own channel, so if you're interested in seeing Total Warhammer streams, feel free to go to his channel and I'll be dropping a link in the description. Now, for the armies here, Logic is going full mobility this time with a whole lot of Horsemasters and Horsemen in the front line, mixed in with a single beast of Tzeentch, anti-large Norscan Warhounds. And at the back, more mobility in the form of armored Skinwolves, slightly slower than the unarmored variant, but still very potent with a bit more staying power thanks to the armored bought by the extra gold. For the leadership here, supported by a bunch of Marauder chariots, we have Wolfric the Wanderer bringing his ship a bunch of buffs as well, and of course Hunter of Champions. As for spell support, the Shaman Sorcerer of Metal is going full damage with Searing Doom and also a rarely used spell, the Golden Hound, basically treating the caster like a mobile artillery. On the opposite side, with the Tzeentch army led by Every Chicken, there is a huge skirmishing force as well with 4 Marauder Horsemen of Tzeentch. Behind them, the front line is going full numbers here with a lot of Marauders of Tzeentch, backed up by a bunch of Blue Horror firepower, and at the far back, Severed Claw, providing an elite anti-large backbone for the Tzeentch army. In the skies, a couple Furies of Tzeentch supporting the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch bring a bunch of Blue Fire and Pink Fire to spam spells on the Norscan army. Now that's basically it for the army builds, let's get the battle rolling. With this kind of setup, the skirmishing fight quickly begins, and the Marauder Horsemen of Tzeentch, due to their lack of numbers, is quickly overwhelmed with the number of projectiles on the Norscan side. So their shields are knocked out and they will be pulling behind their front line towards the safety of the Marauder shield wall. And now the Marauder will be feeling the pain of the Javelin volleys, but thankfully they do have that missile block chance of 35% thanks to their bronze shield, so they'll be pushing up ahead using themselves as a kind of meat shield to protect the squishy, more susceptible Marauder Horsemen and also Blue Horrors, while at the same time the Blue Horrors' long-range firepower will be pressuring the Marauder Horsemasters and Horsemen, forcing them to pull back every time the Blue Horrors approach. Of course, Marauder Horses still have their own missile attack of about the same range as Blue Horrors, so they will still be able to pepper down the Marauders of Tzeentch as they retreat. And so the Tzeentch Marauders will be continuously absorbing the ammo from the Norscan Skirmish Cavalry. Being a lightly armored unit, they will take some noticeable damage over time. While at the back, the Skinwolves and the Beasts of Tzeentch, as well as the Hero Corps and Chariots, will be hanging back, allowing all these Marauder Horsemen and Horsemasters dish out the pain against the lightly armored Tzeentch troops. Now back to the skirmish battle, these Marauder Horsemasters stay a little too long in the front line here, being aimed at by the Blue Horrors and whatnot, taking substantial damage already from the counter fire. Still, Logic will be pulling back with his skirmishing forces, while Every Chicken will be pushing up ahead, hopefully trying to corner the Norscan troops. And at the same time, the Blue Horrors will be unleashing their projectiles onto some of the Horsemasters and Horsemen. You can see that another unit being knocked down to around half health. In response, Logic threw in a Norscan chariot, hoping to disrupt the backline of Tzeentch and maybe stop some Blue Horrors from firing. Problem is they charge through the Marauder infantry and straight into the armor-piercing aspiring champions, the Severed Claw. And with their amazing melee stats, 40 attack, 52 melee defense, and also extra bonus versus large, these Marauder chariots are having a hard time pulling out, and their armor isn't helping them to survive this onslaught at all. At the same time, the much quicker Norscan army will be maneuvering away, hoping to escape this encirclement before the Tzeentch units, especially the infantry here, seal off their escape route. Every Chicken will react with the infantry shifting towards their left as well, but with only 35 speed, it is impossible for them to intercept the mobile Norscan army. While at the same time, the Tzeentch army seems to have concentrated all their mobility onto the right flank with their Furies and the Horsemen. They were taking the long way round to avoid that Norscan skirmisher fire, but that also means that they are too far away to directly pressure the Norscan army. The Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord right now is being used as a mobile artillery piece, spamming those Blue Fire and Pink Fire, hoping to thin out the Norscan mobility. And with Tzeentch not putting any mobile units on their left flank, the Norscan army cannot be caught and will simply escape from the surround of the Tzeentch infantry. Also, Norscan now starts to pick off some isolated and weakened elements of the Tzeentch army. even routing some depleted marauders with a single charge from the Beast of Tashnar. Over here, these marauders of Tzeentch with spears are quite exposed, and so the armored skin wolves with their armor mitigating those non-armor piercing spear anti-large damage, and then of course the fire support from the marauder horses quickly routes off these marauders of Tzeentch and will be quickly pulling out the skin wolves and Beasts of Tashnar once again, as they are now taking some fire from the blue horrors, who have used up all their ammo and will be charging into melee combat. But unfortunately for Everchicken here, these blue horrors do not have much armor piercing and won't be doing too much to the skin wolves. The blue horrors at the back are still chasing after this blob of Norscan mobility, but logic here is just quickly maneuvering all the forces away once again. While over here there are some marauder horsemen of Tzeentch being hit by both Norscan javelins and the golden hounds earlier. They are quickly routed off the map as they were way too close to the white line. A Searing Doom comes in, did some nice damage to the blobbed up Tzeentch infantry, further thinning out their numbers, while the Chaos Furies are still desperately trying to catch up with the marauder horses of the Norscan army. At this point of battle, I would say the Norscan army is in quite a bit of lead right now. The Tzeentch army has taken substantial damage throughout the process. Balance of power is still quite even, simply because the ammo expended by all these horsemen have taken up quite a bit of their balance of power, and now them running out of ammo means that they will need to engage in melee, charging into the lightly armored blue horrors of Tzeentch. Actually, almost no armor at all, at only 5 armor. They will be taking substantial damage with the charge impact, thanks to all the charge bonus from the horsemasters and horsemen, and then another Searing Doom denying some of these blue horrors from rushing in to help, and the blue horrors, these guys here, will be quickly crumbling, fading away from reality, going back to the Immaterium. While over here, Wolfric the Wanderer charging into some blue horrors, pinning them down, allowing the horsemen and horsemaster as well as some of these skin wolves to retreat from combat. Chaos Bonds is summoned by Everchicken here, hoping to pin down Wolfric, but the positioning isn't exactly optimal here, allowing Wolfric to quickly extract himself from the engagement, dropping in a ship as well, doing massive damage to both units of blue horrors. At the back, there are still some marauder horsemen of Tzeentch trying to do some chip damage with their projectiles, but unfortunately Tzeentch, with 2 of their marauder horses gone and most of their blue horror ammo used up, they are also running out of missile fire. While over here, marauder horsemasters charging into these extremely depleted marauders of Tzeentch, and then they will be quickly routed. Now, despite using up their ammo and most of their army is holding back, the Norscan army is still fulfilling the attacking rule, with the marauders here chasing after some routed units. Of course, with these horses retreating and most of the Norscan army hanging back, they need to throw something else back into melee grind, and the marauder chariots will be their choice. And then we'll be entering this hit and run phase here, as both armies cannot really get into a proper fight with each other. The Norscans, they are not willing, and the Tzeentch, they are unable. So both sides will continue the battle with their spell artillery, with the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord dropping in a blue fire, and in response the Metal Shaman Sorcerer throws in a Searing Doom. Anyways, let's get back into normal speed, as the Norscan army finally decided to throw their skin wolves into battle, though unfortunately the Beasts of Tashnar are routing. On the far side, the Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch will be chasing off these marauder horsemen, and the marauder chariots will also be chasing after the marauders of Tzeentch with spears. There's also some shattered Tzeentch marauders being chased down. And these blue horrors, absolutely forgotten on the other side of the map, probably chasing after some routed horsemasters. They are way out of position and highly susceptible to being picked off by the superior Norscan mobility. They need to stay with friendlies. Searing Doom here doing some nice damage to the marauders and blue horrors, as the skin wolves are pinning them down in melee combat. Skin wolves, thanks to their low unit model count, are less susceptible to these area of effect spells and can be used to anchor enemy troops for more effective spell cast. After casting those spells, the Shaman Sorcerer will be backing off, being threatened by the Tzeentch mobility. Wolfric the Wanderer being targeted by the blue fire, but most of that actually missed. Same goes for this single entity bombardment, as Wolfric was on the move, evading most of the shots. Seems like Wolfric being swift on his steed, and the small hitbox is helping him to survive in this kind of sniping bombardment. Right now, the Tzeentch horsemen managed to pin down the Norscan single entities, but the problem is they have nothing to finish them. Maybe the Severed Claw has good enough stats to do so, but the problem is they are a heavy infantry with only 32 speed. they can't exactly catch up with all these mounted characters and skin wolves, as they quickly routed off all these Marauder horsemen and are freed up from this blob once again. Another bombardment comes in, searing doom here, knocking out the shield on the Marauder's spears, and the Severed Claw is just constantly driving forward, but simply hopeless in catching up with the mobility. On the other side, some Marauders, supported by the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, managed to do some nice damage to the Skin Wolf's armored version. But unfortunately, most of the forces left on the battlefield are non-armor piercing infantry, and they are pretty much spent in earlier engagements. So with a quick charge from the Skin Wolves and their fear attribute, the Marauders are soon shattered. But now, with the Savage Claw here supporting, the Skin Wolves will be pulling away as they don't want to tangle with these elite anti-large infantry. Though the good news to Norscan is that all the cardio has exhausted the aspiring champions, making them much less effective in this kind of late game fight. The Norscan chariots are still roaming around the battlefield, chasing after routing units, trying to shatter them, although these Marauders are long shattered and they should be aiming at these Marauders of Tzeentch instead. Over here, Metal Shaman Sorcerer is routed by the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch, and there are still some Marauder Horsemen of Tzeentch dishing out some damage with their javelin projectiles. Severed Claw and some spears of Tzeentch surrounded the Skin Wolves and did some nice damage, just hacking them down with the anti-large attacks. But unfortunately, more and more of the Tzeentch units are being pushed away, just like these depleted Tzeentch horses being driven off by the Skin Wolves. And the rest of the Marauders are simply picked apart by the Norscan mobility superiority. Now let's go into fast forward again as both armies are regrouping. Tzeentch blobbing up their anti-large infantry, the Norscan armies quickly just routing off enemy units. These guys are now routed, they need to engage now to fulfill the attacking rule, though Logic seems to have other plans as the main formation pulls back while the Norscan chariots will be fed to the wolves. With the Severed Claw reacting to the chariots, the spears are now out of position, not supported by the more elite aspiring champions. Without the leadership support from either the encouragement of aspiring champions or the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, the morale of all these Tzeentch Marauders are quickly giving way, as the raging Skin Wolves and Marauder horses, also the Norscan leadership, tear into their ranks, especially with Wulfric providing melee attack buffs with Fight or Die. So logically, Norscan doesn't want to leave all their units in this blob fight. Most of the Skin Wolves and the leadership are pulling out, while the Norscan horses will be left engaged for a slight bit longer. Of course, with the attacking rule, you can't retreat everything, so Logic will be throwing in the Skin Wolves once again, ramming head-on into a formation of spears and halberds. Another single entity bombardment comes in just now, but once again it misses Wulfric. It is quite bad at hitting any moving single entity units, honestly, especially when they're not a massive monster. Right now, the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord is still circling around the sky on his disc, while his troops are now surrounded by all these Skin Wolves buffed up by the charge bonus. He needs to start diving down and get the cycle charging going. The Severed Claw are holding for now, but being extremely exhausted right now, their armor is actually debuffed as well as their melee stats, so they're not doing any effective damage to the Skin Wolves that they can't heal up. Yes, there's one Skin Wolf losing melee combat and is wavering, but the Severed Claw themselves, with their armor not absorbing damage as effectively, is also losing HP rapidly. The balance of power might be in favor of Tzeentch, but that's only because Wulfric the Wonder is quite damaged, and the Tzeentch Sorcerer Lord is no match in melee combat against Wulfric, especially when surrounded by anti-large Skin Wolves. He doesn't want to stay in that combat for too long there, so he will be quickly pulling out, but Wulfric is hot on his tail. Now the Severed Claw is fighting valiantly, getting some nice damage dealt to the Skin Wolves, but they simply do not have that kind of DPS to cut through all these units of regenerating monsters, probably because of their low model counts. So let's fast forward here as the Severed Claw is now slowly grind down by the healing, regenerating Skin Wolves, while the Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch got hit by a Hunter of Champions. His melee stats massively debuffed, now surrounded by anti-large units, and also Wulfric the Wonder. He is routed, same goes for the Severed Claw. Army losses was hit, and victory belongs to the Norscan tribes. GG to both players, and big thanks to Logic for sending in this replay. For the army performances, let's do it quickly since we did have a very long battle. So for the Norscan here, we have the Marauder Horsemasters and Horsemen. On paper, they didn't do too much damage value, but they did absorb a lot of ammo from both the Marauder horses and also the blue horrors. And on top of that, they did enough damage to some of these Marauder horses, and combined with the Shaman Sorcerer of Metal Bombardment, routed these Marauder horses early, at least for 2 of them, which in turn eliminated a noticeable part of the Tzeentch army's balance of power. On top of that, chasing down routed units and also chipping away the shields on the Tzeentch army did help them to contribute to the victory of the Norscans. As for the other mobility, Marauder horsemen's basically the same thing really. Beasts of Tashnar did some nice kills but not a lot of value. Being rather squishy themselves, low armored and rather large hitbox, they are quite susceptible to enemy fire, especially blue horrors and Marauder horsemen of Tzeentch. Chariots did quite some kills, but unfortunately not a lot of value, mostly chasing down routed units and also being stuck on the aspiring champions, the Severed Claw. They just took a lot of damage instead. And in the end, all these mobility units weakened the Tzeentch army enough, as they never fully engaged their army until the time is right. Before that, they were just constantly chipping away their health with either missiles or just cycle charging. So most of the Tzeentch units are running out of HP by the end game, and the Skin Wolves can easily charge in using their charge bonus to dish out the pain, rout off those isolated units, some of those say Marauders of Tzeentch, one of the spear units on the flank, and also in the end drag away units from their position, run them down, then concentrate the superior mobility on the Norscan army to achieve victory by trashing whatever's isolated. As for the characters, Shaman Sorcerer of Metal, a nice mobile artillery in the form of Searing Doom and Golden Hound, did over 1000 gold worth of damage value. Wolfric, over 140 kills thanks to his ship. Overall, very solid kiting, using the superior Horsemaster unit to dictate the skirmishing fight against the Tzeentch army. While Everchicken here with the Tzeentch army, the approach was right. You basically want to pressure enemy mobility if they go full kite, but I think what he could have done was split the Marauder horses into 2 groups. 2 of them on the left, 2 of them on the right, and when enemy mobility tries to escape from one flank, you throw in those Marauder horses of Tzeentch hoping to pin them down, while the infantry will be following from behind to tie down the large units of the Norscans. And at the same time, of course, the heroes and the furies will be hopping over, hoping to tie them down. But alas, unfortunately, Everchicken chose to concentrate all the Marauder horses on one flank, giving a huge gap for Logic's mobility to escape. Still, the infantry absorbed a lot of ammo for their mobility units and also for the blue horrors, but the squishiness of the blue horrors means that the Marauder horses can easily charge in and dish out some nice impact damage. And Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Tzeentch did some ridiculous value thanks to those blue fire spams and also pink fire. In the end, Severed Claw did some really ridiculous damage, hacking down all those Marauder chariots and Skin Wolves, but unfortunately not able to carry the game as they were surrounded, outnumbered, in the end overwhelmed by all those surviving Skin Wolves who are also regenerating, out-healing their damage. Anyways, that's it for today's battle. I hope viewers you enjoy it, and if you do and want to see more Total War Warhammer multiplayer content, be sure to hit the like and subscribe. I'll be uploading more content including battle replays like this one, wild army builds, and also tips and strategies for Total War Warhammer multiplayer. If you have any replays yourself that you want to showcase, feel free to join my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. And yeah, that's it for today, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Tzeetch, signing out.